Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Shannon. I'm here to read your story today. Our story today is Yucky Worms by Vivian French. Here's our title page, Yucky Worms by Vivian French. One day when I was in Grandma's garden, Grandma dug up a slimy, slithery, wiggly worm. Yuck! I said. Throw it away. Throw it away? Grandma looked horrified. Would you throw away one of your friends? You can't be friends with a worm, I said. You can't even tell which end is which. Yes, you can. Just watch. Grandma put the worm down. It gave a kind of squirmy wiggle and disappeared really fast, pointy end first. As the rounded end vanished, Grandma said, "There goes its tail." I bent down to look, and I could see that the worm had left a little tunnel. "Where did it go?" I asked. "Home," Grandma said. "It's an earthworm. It lives under the ground." "But what does it eat? Dirt?" I wanted to know. "It eats tiny, tiny stones and bits of dirt," Grandma told me. "But worms eat other things too, like old leaves and flowers and fruit and dead insects. They especially like to eat at night when the air is cool." The stones and dirt help grind up everything in the worm's stomach, and then the worm poops it back out. Grandma pointed at the flower bed. "Look at that. Can you see over there?" I bent down and I saw it looked like a weird, long, curly worm made of dirt. "That's worm poop," Grandma said. "It's called a cast. You know when you recycle things? Well, worms recycle too. There's still a lot of really good nutrition left in the things that a worm eats, and when the goodness comes out again as poop, it helps plants grow big and strong. As the worms move around under the soil and on top of the soil, the poop gets spread around the garden." That is why worms are my friends. Grandma gave me a thumbs up. It's not just their poop that's good for the plants. The tunnels they dig loosen the soil. That way roots can stretch out and air and rainwater can get in. But it's also dangerous being a worm, Grandma said. "Dangerous?" I asked. Grandma smiled at me and said, "Lots and lots of animals think that worms are the most delicious dinner. Birds love them, and so do moles and badgers and frogs and hedgehogs and foxes. Even some slugs eat worms. Human beings can hurt them sometimes with our garden spades and forks. It's a tough life being a worm." "Well, Grandma, cutting them in half doesn't hurt them," I said. "They just turn into two worms and keep on growing." Grandma shook her head. "Poor worms. Lots of people think that, but it isn't true." She put her fork down and said, "Let's go get a snack." Grandma had some tea and I had some orange juice. "Can I dig up a worm now?" I asked. "If it rains, the worms will come up on their own," Grandma told me. As I nibbled my cookie, I said, "What if it doesn't rain?" Grandma winked. "We'll use the watering can and pretend. I finished my cookie as fast as I could. Can we go trick the worms now? I asked. Grandma filled the watering can and I watered the ground. Then I stood back. I didn't want the worms nibbling at my shoes. They will only put their heads out in a little while. Grandma was right. I had time to eat 2 more cookies, she said. Look! Wow! I could just see the tip of a worm above the ground. Now watch this. Grandma stomped her foot and the worm disappeared. Did it see you? I asked. Worms don't have eyes, but they feel vibrations through the ground. And when I made a thump, that might mean that a big hungry bird is landing nearby. Danger! Danger! Grandma stuck her gardening fork in the ground, and up came lots of dirt and wriggly worms. She picked one up and washed it gently in the watering can. Mustn't drop it. Worms can't swim, she said. Grandma put the clean worm on some paper and held it near my ear. I could hear a tiny rustling noise. What's that? Worms are covered in little bristles, Grandma said. The bristles and their muscles help them move. I've got muscles too. I bit my arms up so Grandma could see. Hey, if you've got so many muscles, she said, maybe you'd like to help me plant my sunflower seedlings. Okay, I agreed, and then I thought of something. When I go to school on Monday, I'm going to say that I've got lots of new friends. That's a good idea, Grandma said. But I might not say that they're worms. Silly. That's the end of our story, boys and girls. Have fun doing your wormy works today.